Yo, GM, everybody. Episode 10, man. Dude, we're flying on these episodes. Can't believe we've almost been at Emblem Vault for almost 5 months now, man. How crazy is that?
Bro, I'm telling you, we're going to be at 100 in no time, and then 1,000's going to creep up on you, and you're going to be like, what just happened? Here we are, man.
What just happened? Dogfather, good morning, bro. How you feeling? Can you guys hear me? Oh, there you are.
Hey, guys. GM. I'm still in the car, but I will be available in around 10 minutes.
Yeah, no problem. Ethord, I just invited you up to come hang out. Everyone, GM, man.
We had a good time last night, kind of celebrating a little NFT history. Had a nice space last night. I think that was pretty awesome. If anybody missed it, check out either my or Jake's tweets and stuff. You can find it. It was a great listen, kind of about that week in March 2021. So if you guys want to check that out, it's a good time.
Yeah, that was actually the first time I had talked with Harry in a long time. He had disappeared. He's really one of the OGs in terms of the NFT archaeology and finding stuff, man. I missed everything about NFT archaeology. I was not an excavator in a sense. I was somebody who's just a journalist, I guess, or I suppose. I know you're in there. Adam's a pro now. You're able to navigate any type of blockchain, any block explorer. You're good.
Hardly, man. It's a never-ending learning experience, man. There's, as you know, dude, there is literally something new to learn every single day. It's amazing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I'm excited to see. So I want to start off, man. It was something we kind of touched on yesterday in that Spaces. And I believe, and it's crazy to me that no one's really talking about this, but I'm also not an expert that I'm about to go into. And it's actually the taxes and the guidance of the IRS. I just pulled up here. It was even on CNBC. At one point, the IRS plans to tax some NFTs as collectibles, and the rich would pay up to 28% on profits. I love how they position that. Oh, Leo's here too, because we were kind of talking about this yesterday. So the IRS plans to tax some rich NFTs collectibles, and the rich would pay up to 28% on profits. This is the first time that the IRS has ever put guidance out on NFTs, and you can request. They're requesting comments up until June. It says collectibles carry a long-term capital gains tax of 28%. Other assets such as stocks and cryptocurrency generally carry a maximum of 20%. So right now, the current tax rate is 20% because they are collectibles. They're trying to move the long-term or the short-term to 28% because IRS, I guess, wants their money. The IRS intends to use a look-through analysis to determine whether an NFT is a collectible. It will issue final guidance after a public comment period. And so now I'm actually pulling up on the screen that are watching. This is actually like the guidance that they had put out from the official IRS website. And so if you're here, it says, Section 408 M2 provides that for the purpose of this section, the term collectible, so this is what collectible means to the IRS, any work of art, any rug or antique, any metal or gem, any stamp or coin, any alcoholic beverage. I found that one very interesting. I don't know how it's a collectible, man, if you're drinking it. I guess maybe they can.
20-year-old scotch, right? I mean, that's what they're thinking about, right?
Ah, true. And then any other tangible personal property specified by the secretary for purposes of this subsection. I don't know, man. Adam, what do you think of this? I prefaced by saying that I do not know much about taxes. I just went and visited my tax person the other day, and he always makes me feel better after I leave.
What it is in my view, taxes are always, this is the, let's make it as confusing as possible so that we can always get you. That's my end view. If they want to get you, you're got. Right. There's like no escaping it because it's so complicated. Like literally no one individual on earth could possibly untangle this mess. You know, it makes me be like, gosh darn, I almost wish I would have just given up my US citizenship years ago, man. Just literally not have to deal with this. Right. I mean, you know, it's coming up, man. It's like I'm going to spend days doing my taxes. Right. And with meeting with my tax guy and doing all this garbage. And it's like, ugh, you know, and you're still wrong if they want you to be wrong. I mean, that's just at the end of the day. If they want you, you're done. And it's one of the for me, it's one of the real negatives about the US. Like just charge me 15% on absolutely everything, every transaction, everything. And let's just stop this nonsense. But instead it's this complicated mess. And yeah, it's a total nightmare for me.
It's a pain in the ass. I've tried I've tried at least 3 or 4 different softwares, and they all come up with different numbers. That's so crazy.
Get it, man, dude. That's when you know you're at the height of insanity. I mean, it's like literally you go to 2 different tax accountants, you are going to get 2 very, very different tax returns. And the other guy guarantees going to go, oh man, you can't do that. You know, I mean, if you've ever gone to an accountant, this is my experience with every single accountant ever. The previous accountant was an idiot and you were at risk for what you were doing. That's every new accountant I get is like, I can't believe you were doing that. That's crazy. You know, God, forget it, man. They're worse than lawyers, man.
They are. As somebody who's from Vegas, I talked about this a lot. I've actually been audited 3 different times. There's 3 years in a row, actually, from the IRS.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, I worked in the nightclub and day club industry for 10 years, and it's generally the nightlife industry gets about 25% of the staff gets audited every year. So it kind of is just on rotation because it has to do with tips. And so I assume this is probably what's going to end up happening in the crypto industry as well. Although you can never completely eliminate it. There's always ways people will always figure out a way to kind of circumvent whatever the restriction is, no matter if it's taxes or money laundering or Silk Road or technology. People are always going to find a way around it. But yeah, man, I went to court all 3 times, and so I won 2 of 3 of them so far. The third one's still pending. You just got to have a good tax attorney, man. Oh, and for actually 2 of them, they actually had misrepresented my hours by like 1,000 hours. So they were actually just like completely wrong on it. So from what I've learned through this experience is that whenever you get an audit notice, it's actually not any person. It's actually like their automated system, and their automated system fucks up a lot.
All the time, right?
All the time. And they just mass send it out. And basically what they're trying to do is force you to hire an attorney so that you have to spend more money to then fight them. And so it's generally the lower the lower income individuals are the ones who are forced to pay it because they can't pay attorney $500 a month or whatever it is to do it. Yep. Leo, we were talking about this about the NFT collectible tax through the DMs yesterday. First GM, and what are your thoughts on this?
Well, so I mean, basically, I just see a proposal to increase the taxes that we'd have to pay in the US on our NFTs. So, I mean, obviously, not very thrilled by this potential proposal. But yeah, I mean, again, it's just a proposal. We'll actually have to see if this, kind of gets codified by the IRS as the, way we tax our like digital assets that are non-fungible. I think it's an incredibly hard question to determine like which NFT is a collectible and which wouldn't be. That's like a really weird, kind of like almost impossible task in my opinion. I don't know. Like, it's like, oh, like we hold these like old historical NFTs. They obviously kind of feel like collectibles, except they're, now we have a DAO or a multi-sig wallet. Does that make them like utility all of a sudden, and now they're no longer collectibles? Like, I don't know the answer to these questions. I just know that the material impact to us would be that basically the federal income tax, basically the tax you're going to pay on the sale of a long-term, so holding more than a year, an NFT would go from 20% to up to 28%, depending on who that is making the sale. So like for me, it's just an 8% hit on every NFT that I hold for longer than a year and sell. So that's obviously, again, just not thrilled about it. That's the only like real material difference here. I think there was some stuff in that proposal about like IRAs and stuff like that. I'm not holding NFTs and retirement accounts, so it doesn't really affect. I don't think most people are either, so I don't think that affects people too much. But yeah, I mean, they're trying to bump us into this class of like collectibles, which is theoretically like the reason it's taxed higher is because it's perceived as being held by wealthier individuals who have the luxury of collecting antique cars, and rich people are storing value with like 100 antique cars in their big warehouse garage in the back of their farm. Like, this is the kind of perception, and this is why they have the 28% tax for these guys. And yeah, they're trying to put us in that bracket and just squeeze a little more, I think.
Yeah. So there are a few people requested. We will bring you guys up in a little bit once we kind of run through a little bit of the show. So just hang on. Pulling up this article, they do reference land a handful of times in here, digital land. It says, for example, a right to use or develop a plot of land in a virtual environment generally is not a Section 408 collectible, and therefore an NFT that provides a right to use or develop the plot of land in a virtual environment generally does not constitute itself as a collectible. So they're coming after, man. Maybe they classify it as real estate, so that
yes, that classified as real. What is that classified as?
I think. Well, I think real estate. Don't you pay? I think you pay the fullest capital gains taxes. I'm pretty sure.
Wait, can I claim that as my primary residence so then I can sell it every 2 years and take the $250,000 deductible on that? Is that something I can? Leo's probably already figured that out. He's living full time in his metaverse land in Sandbox or something.
well, if I remember correctly, FTX's tax people lived in the metaverse, so maybe we're just following suit with them, or maybe Do Kwon, who just got arrested from maybe it was the digital Interpol police who caught them, because they also are now headquartered in, or not headquartered, they do have a land in the metaverse. They put out like a video about that a few months ago. It's quite funny, quite funny.
Or the trick is just move to El Salvador, where they're no longer going to tax income, property tax, or capital gains around technological innovations. Just came out yesterday.
That was that was awesome.
This is really interesting. There's a lot of these like tax havens, and like there's a lot of people in crypto like who are these influencers that this is what they do. They go live in Puerto Rico or these places, and I mean they literally do pay like 0% taxes when they sell an NFT. It's pretty wild. Like, I don't do this, but there's definitely more people than you would think actually do that.
I did. Yeah, they did announce that yesterday. I mean, El Salvador, man, leading the charge of innovation. I think the interesting metric for me will be if they can really get that crime and murder rate down, because they were number one in the world before they adopted Bitcoin as currency. So if they can move that down, I think that proves that maybe Bitcoin is a good model to at least integrate or classify as currency. I don't know. I like President Bukele. He's doing a lot. He had to go massively out on the risk curve to take this, right? The IMF and all of these like international monetary funds are just trying to deplatform him from the global stage. It's very, very courageous.
The only issue is, as Americans, we're just screwed, right? It doesn't matter. You can move to Mars. and the tax rate still applies. So unfortunately, that's your only kind of escape, I guess, is Puerto Rico to a degree. But other than that, you're taxed full. Doesn't matter where you live.
Man, I don't know. I still want to go down there. I'm gonna take advantage of it. I'll probably be halfway there because I'm gonna be in Miami next week. So if anyone's down in NFT Miami, then hit me up. Moving on from the taxes, because I know everyone kind of, when you start talking about taxes, everyone's like, get me the fuck out of here. I'm over it. Something a little bit more fun and probably a bit controversial. Dude, these Bitcoin apes, man, they keep popping up. I started looking into these the other day, and I do want to preface by saying I do own, I think, like 4 of these that I managed to get. I did try to inscribe a bunch of them, and I realized after about like 15 of them that I was inscribing the wrong. I was inscribing the smaller version of it, not the Byte Perfect. I completely missed this. I believe now, I think Leonidas had posted that these Bitcoin apes now take up 1 gigabyte of almost the 500 gigabyte full node of a Bitcoin node. Is that right, Leo?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's like kind of, I really am not sure how to process a statistic like this, but yeah, I mean, it's a nice little chunk of Bitcoin is now just images of monkeys, right? And again, I don't have too much more commentary other than like, yeah, that's the statistic stands for itself. I did a little interview with Decrypt, and they published an article about this last night. And basically, yeah, my thought is, it's good for Bitcoin to have more fees coming in, right? Like these fees are actually helping to secure the network. It gives the miners this supplemental revenue source other than the block rewards. And we know that long term, the block rewards go to zero. That's programmed into Bitcoin. So we have to solve this problem somehow. And like currently, this is the leading answer is monkey images, Jake.
do we think that these Bitcoin apes will flip Bitcoin punks? What do you think? What do you think, Adam? What's your opinion of this when you look at these?
I don't want to speculate on this, Adam. What are your
I will not speculate either, but certainly the volume has already flipped. I mean, I just looked at it before the show today, and I think they were 3x the volume of Bitcoin punks. It's crazy. I rugged myself much like Jake. I thought for sure, because like literally when Bitcoin punks happened, I was like, man, Bitcoin, let's just do the apes. Let's do the apes. But, organizing it and getting it all together, I was just like, I don't have the time to even do it. But the moment I heard those guys were like, oh, we're going to do it, I was like, oh, yes. Because my brain had already processed. Like I was fully in. Dude, I minted like 20 of those things, right? Awesome numbers. 7, 8, 9, 10, 6, 6, 6, 7, 7. Bro, I had the sweet numbers, right? And then I start looking at what they've like, all the Byte Perfect ones. And I'm like, wait a minute, where's my wallet address, dude? What the hell's going on? And they're like, bro, I had a guy look at it. He's like, no, you uploaded the small versions. And I'm like, I did not, because when I went on Ordinal's bot, I unchecked the check for sure. Right. Then I read the fine print, man. And it was like, if you put it in and then unchecked, that gave you the small one. And I rugged myself out of like, I don't even know. Dude, I was paying like fast gas. So I don't know, do the math. I rugged myself out of like $2,000 worth of gas fees on that. So I just throw that money right into the miner river. They just got a couple grand from McBride. But so yeah, I was in, man, but now I'm out. So
fading generational wealth. Just
again, bro. It doesn't have to happen every time. Every time. It's so awesome.
Right. For those that aren't familiar with the context, Adam was trying to inscribe like before or like immediately when it was live, like sub 100, and he had Casey on the phone, having to trying to explain it to him. It could not just get it through. So that's just we're used to. Rugged again. Dogfather, I know you've been putting a bunch of stats out on this, and maybe you're familiar with it a little bit better. I just started looking into the Bitcoin apes like a few days ago. After people kept continuously sending it to me, I was like, all right, I'll look at it. And then tried to look at it. But I know you've been following it much more closely. So what you got?
Yeah, just a few comments on that. So Leo's completely right. So these files are like 500 times larger than the small PNGs you put for a CryptoPunk. So they take way more space. because it's not just an 24 times 24 pixel with a transparent background, but it's like really huge, sometimes even 100, 200 kilobytes. So we talk about relatively large files, and they're also way more expensive to inscribe, obviously. So some people were paying like $200 just to inscribe one. And then if you look at the volumes, of course, it's now a bit unfair to compare the Bitcoin punks and this Bitcoin apes, because the Bitcoin punks in the early days, they had crazy volume as well, thousands of ETH. When the attention was there and everyone was flipping in and out. And now we have the same situation with the Bitcoin punks where, everyone is trying to get in and people get out who had a bunch. So let's compare the volumes in a month or so, then we know more. So then it's a fair comparison. But obviously at the moment they have their moment. And with the main difference I see, I'm also not speculating whether one or the other is flipping each other, but I mean the main difference is obviously the inscription numbers, right? So with the Bitcoin punks, you have way lower inscription numbers. I think it's everything is sub 40K, and there are even some sub 100, some sub 10K, and so on. So that's the big difference. Long term, if people value low inscription numbers, then the Bitcoin punks and even the I2 punks look better, right? According to that. But who knows? People love these apes, and we will see. I will definitely have a look into that, into some statistics later on this month.
Yeah, Leo, did you have your hand up, or?
I was just going to kind of second that. Like, Dogfather makes a good point. So, like, I'm obviously biased towards the Bitcoin punks just because I hold those, and I actually don't hold any of the Bitcoin apes. But I'll just try to give like very concisely the pitch for either collection. So, the pitch for the Bitcoin punks is, all the collections at the time. This is very early on, early February. There were only collections of like size 100. So all of these like smaller collections, it was very difficult to even manage a 100 size collection at the time. And then Bitcoin punks come along. And then in the first 35,000 inscriptions, there's this massive 10,000 supply collection. So there's these many layers to collecting an ordinal inscription. Inscription number is a piece of this puzzle that matters to the market and to certain people. So that's a very large part of the pitch. This was the pitch I put when I tweeted out my kind of thesis on it. And yeah, I mean, look, it's like you can look at the higher level aspect of all this and just say, oh, it's punks on Bitcoin, oh, it's apes on Bitcoin. But that is kind of that is why the Bitcoin punks are valuable and like holding value to this day. And then the Bitcoin apes, it is really about like, I don't want to get too crazy here, but there's like this labor theory of value that, a lot of Bitcoiners will argue underpins the value of a Bitcoin, because you have to do proof of work in order to like mine that Bitcoin, and money had to be spent. So therefore it like shouldn't go to zero, because like psychologically, we all know there was all this like actual work that went into generating that. It wasn't just programmatically created. So there's a similar thing with Bitcoin punks here. People are basically burning $1 million to create these. And if you do subscribe to the labor theory of value, some level of psychology is at play where there's probably some level of value that's underpinning the value of the Bitcoin apes, just because of like how much work and effort it is to inscribe $1 million worth of fees of these apes. And then there's this narrative, the 1 gigabyte of 466 gigabytes. It's kind of interesting. I think that's like an interesting little, maybe a little interesting piece of the kind of history that could make it into a Wikipedia page like 10 years from now. I don't know. And then lastly, the main other pitch for the Bitcoin punks would be they were the ones who innovated this model. So Robert and his team basically created this site and, created this concept of like, we're going to take the hash of the original image, compare it to every inscription on chain, and basically index the first punk that matches. And then that becomes the real one. This model has then been obviously, adopted by Bitcoin apes, but also the BRC20 protocol, also the .sats protocol. So there's a little bit of like an innovation, I would say, that happened there that I think is another good argument for the punks. But all in all, these are just I think there's more to it than just apes and punks on Bitcoin. If that was it, I'm just not sure if I would find myself attracted to this sort of thing as a collector. I do value those underlying kind of narratives and stories behind this.
Yeah, that's our historical NFT nature kind of popping up from it. Outside of just punks and apes, there is there is, I think I've seen some of the Bored Ape owners go to or have been advocating to buy some of these Bitcoin apes because they want the pair, very similar to like the V1, V2 things. But I actually like what Leonidas said with the model. I think this could be because this could become a standardized inscribing model, because the royalty fees don't really exist on Bitcoin. It's not like the nature of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin community. And so you're kind of going back to this like Larva Labs model where you just take a percentage of the supply and then you let everyone else kind of mint it for free, right? And so here, I'd assume, I don't know the percentages, but I'd assume that both teams probably took a percentage, right? They set it up, so they're more than welcome to do that, as long as it's not too much so that you kind of just taint any sort of like activity, which seems like they did a good job. But you're setting up this decentralized model where people are then going and inscribing. The people who set it up are not getting the fees for it. Those are going to the miners. And so you're kind of putting a lot of risk, and even like regulatory risk. You're taking it off of you, because if someone says like, hey, you owe taxes on this, you're like, I didn't get paid for it, right? I just inscribed, I just paid the miners for some of this collection and set it up, and everyone kind of went off and did their own thing. So I think this could be something that becomes standardized over time. I don't know if you necessarily put it into its own standard model. It's just something that kind of people will use.
Absolutely. I think it's really an interesting model, and pretty innovative, right? I mean, even if I'm an artist and I want to do a 10K collection, I can put the images, whatever, on my website, and then you just download them and you upload them yourself, right? And you're the first person to do it, and that's the official one. It's really an interesting model. Obviously, we start with the lowest hanging fruit, the ones that are simple and easy. Everybody understands, punks and apes. But you can see how this could travel across to all sorts of new interesting stuff.
Yes, sir. Dogfather has got his hand up. What's good, bro?
Yeah, basically that's the counterparty model, right? Where you don't have royalties either. And so the artists were always keeping some supply. And when it was, pumping, that they were selling them over time to, gain a bit after the whole project raised in value. So you can learn a bit from these earlier times from Counterparty. And because most of the collections were basically sold for free at the beginning, so rare Pepes were like nothing at the beginning, right? So they were just sending them to friends or exchanging them. And the other thing, there's already marketplaces also for ordinals, like the Generative XYZ or so. And there you can set royalties, and who knows, maybe some people do think about that, like donating some money to the project founders in order to fund some development. So let's see whether that's also a thing in a few years.
Jake, why don't you tell us about your listing experience this morning with Native Marketplace?
Oh my God. Right. So I have a few of those Bitcoin apes, and I was like, all right, now I actually have time, right? We've kind of, from a infrastructure standpoint for Emblem, which we'll discuss next, I've kind of moved on to Curated now. So now I have time to actually like go play within the ecosystem. So this week we had Magic Eden pop up for their own Bitcoin or their Ordinals marketplace. We had Gamma announce theirs. You have the Ordinals wallets. You have OrdSwap. So I was like, hey, I'm going to take some of these Bitcoin apes and just list them just to try to get the experience going. Magic Eden was cool. Not that bad of an experience. Pretty swift, pretty easy. Integrates with Xverse. So it has this like kind of Solana Ethereum feel. There's just no liquidity there. They're taking a 2% marketplace fee. It was kind of cool to see everything denominated in Bitcoin. Went over to Gamma. They had like 5 collections listed there, and they layered it on top of their Stacks marketplace. So, and also you can sign in with like 5 different wallets. So it's a little bit of a confusing experience, but if you know what you're doing, it's probably easier. But I find it weird that you can like sign in with MetaMask and then also Hyro and then also Xverse. And then the wallets are all like intermingling and connecting with each other. It was a little bit of a weird experience. And they didn't have Bitcoin apes listed. So I was like, all right, well, I guess this is out of the book. Went over to OrdSwap. OrdSwap only has a native wallet. So you have to I'd have to take it from Xverse, go send it to the OrdSwap wallet, then list it. It does seem like there's a lot of activity though on OrdSwap. Seems to be like the leading kind of native marketplace. But again, as we always discuss, is friction points. There's like 5 friction points of going through that. So I haven't listed it there. And then I went to Ordinals wallet. Again, same thing. You have to set up a wallet with them. And that couldn't even, and then I set up a wallet, couldn't even figure out how to list anything. So I kind of just gave up on it. And so then
early, man, we're early. Actually, my question is though, I mean, with all this talk of PSBTs, isn't it the thing that you'd be able to like list it in one place, but then it shows up on all the marketplaces? Isn't that the larger idea?
Maybe that's because the Ord swap is one that has PB&J transactions. That's kind of what I call it.
Leo, chime in here. Is it that I would be able to list it on Ord swap, and then it's going to show up on other marketplaces as well? Is that, or do I have that wrong?
Yeah. So this is like a slightly complicated conversation, but basically the TLDR is on paper. Theoretically, everyone could adopt like the open ORDEX zero fee, zero royalty model for PSBTs. And then, like it would just literally be when you list on a marketplace, it's going to be the same. It's going to show up everywhere else. Everybody uses the same standard. That is not exactly what we've seen happen in the past 2 weeks. So most of these marketplaces have their own PSBT basically solution that allows them to do royalties, to do, maybe a 2%, 3% fee. Most of the marketplaces are doing this. Again, it's almost like if we have a completely zero fee, zero royalty marketplace, like how does a marketplace make money, right? And that's an open question. So when I've talked to Jamil and like some of these other founders, basically the thesis is, if you provide a really good user experience, people will be willing to pay a small fee for that service, right? So that's kind of that's kind of where things are at now. I still don't know like how this will evolve, because PSBTs are a bit more open still, even with all of these like listings where they're tacking on the 2% fee. What can happen and what I imagine will happen here is we're going to get an aggregator, or some of these marketplaces will just pivot to aggregating and picking up the PSBTs listings from all the other marketplaces, because you basically are able to do that. And then what that'll ultimately do is you'll just have like this kind of experience similar to like Gym, where you can buy the OpenSea one and pay the 2.5% fee there, or you can buy the one from another marketplace that has a lower fee. And that's where we're kind of settling out. And yeah, I mean, ultimately the dream was zero fees, I guess, but we're quickly seeing capitalism at work here. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Somebody can still, like, Open ORDEX is still a zero fee, zero royalty PSBT marketplace. I would just say that basically the experience isn't as good as these teams that are basically, having 5 or 10 engineers, grinding on a marketplace experience. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. I ultimately think long-term, both on Ethereum and Bitcoin, the fees for these marketplaces are going to go down to like maybe 0.5%. And that's where they're going to stay. And there probably won't be royalties. I just think that's the long-term end point. But for now, people are charging fees on pretty much all these marketplaces.
Yeah, they're running almost the same exact thing that Ethereum did about 2 years ago. So ultimately, what's going to happen right there? Aggregator comes in, and then somebody comes in and tries to circumvent that with the royalties, and the marketplace fees go down to zero, and so on and so forth. So we're just going to play this cat and mouse game. On the counter side, though, just going back to like Bitcoin Apes and the volume and the the fragmented marketplaces now, unfortunately. If you go to like Ordinal's Market, they have a 2% buyer's fee, which it seems like people are happily to pay because of that user experience. So people are experimenting with different or a variety of ways to enact. And I think there was like 100 ETH in Bitcoin volume or Bitcoin Apes volume. So it seems like people are still interested in vaulting them and going and trading in the ETH ecosystem, maybe just because of the smart contract functionality and all that other stuff. So will be interesting to watch. But I do want to pivot. We were talking about Counterparty and those different models. The original Counterparty collection of Pepes. I actually teased something out today. I don't know if you guys saw it. Proof of curated of existence. I posted a little snippet, which I'll go over here and pin up to the top, of our kind of the beginning of the curated experience for rare Pepes. And couldn't be more excited toying around with this. Still have a little bit of a way to go, but I felt like it was right. People keep asking when Pepes, when when bulk minting, when everything, it just never, it ever ends. Even when you put in the comments, or even when you look in the comments, somebody's like, wish this was prioritized over ordinals, but better late than never. You can never appease everybody. One thing though, that ordinals was good. I mean, ordinals is awesome from an Emblem Vault infrastructure perspective. It definitely shined a light on all of the weak points of Emblem Vault. So there was a benefit there. Of course, there was a lot of other things that happened, but as just wanted to point that out, that things could have gotten a lot worse if that wasn't if we weren't aware of those small mistakes. But we do have a long place to go. Pepes are almost on the horizon. Adam, what are you thinking?
I think it was actually good. Ordinals taught us a lot, and I think the rollout of Curated is going to go a lot smoother because of ordinals, believe it or not. So I think it's going to be worth the wait. And we're close now. I mean, I know we've been saying we're close, but actually what I mean by close this time is like we're actually like it's top of the list right now, which is great. You know, so the ordinal slowdown has been good.
Yeah, today we're playing, or Shannon's playing around with some of the metadata tagging. We might actually have to eliminate the card numbers of rare Pepes and Spells Genesis and all the collections. Because if you go to, the issue is how OpenSea is labeled with the properties and how we link up to with our API and stuff. So we're trying to make it as sleek as possible, maybe 5 or 6 categories on the side. But when you put the card number, there's literally 36 card numbers of everyone, right? Because you have series 1 through 36 and then 1 through whatever the numbers are. So it's probably just going to be, have it like there's going to be a supply range, lower than 50, lower than 100, 100, lower than 500, 1,000, etc. Then there will be the series 1 through 36. You could sort by year, and then I'll have the asset names. And I think that's kind of what we're going to run with for now.
Love to hear if other people have ideas. You know, chime in and if we're missing something or you think what we're saying is a bad idea, you know, this is the opportunity. We're hammering it out now. So yeah, I don't know, Leo, if you have any thoughts on our attributes that we're going to add on OpenSea.
Yeah, maybe this is something I would want to like dig into exactly like the details. I'm probably not going to have the best answer here, but I think honestly there are probably like technical constraints and stuff, and just like the experience, like you guys probably have thought about all the ideas, and like these aren't easy problems necessarily. And yeah, I don't know. It ultimately comes down to like, is OpenSea, you know, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, guys. It's a very large supply, like ERC 1155 collection. I haven't really seen that on OpenSea, so yeah, it'll be. I will be interested to see what y'all do. I'm sure it will be like the best you really can. But for certain things, there just aren't great answers, guys. It's 1,700 cards.
Yeah. 1,774 times. Yeah. When I did the math, I think if you include all of the unique assets and their supply of 1,000 or under, it's like 2 million tokens or something like that. It's literally like, it's just, you're never going to be able to store all of it. But we will be rolling both of them out, and we will be doing like a soft launch. So it's essentially what happens is, and then I'll call you on Dogfather on you right after this. We'll have this soft launch. We'll allow individuals to vault. It's to be determined if the bulk minting will be rolled out with that or the migration, because there's just so much interest and demand. Some people just want to get it. We do have to get a bunch of assets on there to kind of, you know, test the feasibility of the network and all these different constraints. But there's a lot of different things we're going to roll out with it, alongside it, or gradually with features. And there are some features that we haven't discussed publicly as well that are going to be pretty cool, that can kind of decrease all of the friction points. But the cool thing, if you look at the pinned post, my favorite part about the Curated is that when you select an asset, let's say you choose the Nakamoto card, you can't mint that vault until the Nakamoto card of at least one quantity or more is inside the vault. So you're essentially eliminating almost all. I mean, I can't say confidently 100% because I know people kind of figure things out, but it's just such a huge security upgrade that people can trade free lists without having to go verify different things. That's kind of my favorite component of it. Dogfather, what's good?
Yeah, just wanted to mention. I mean, of course, you guys know about that. You know, you sit on the stats, but I mean, many of these Pepes have never been really sold or distributed. Some are really in dead wallets. Some, I don't know, for whatever reason, were never vaulted. Even, you know, just one or two dispensers in like 7 years. So obviously, they are not that important to be included in the first, you know, round of putting the Pepes in the Curated collection.
Yeah, the massive unlock that I'm excited about Curated. I was recording, I recorded a show earlier or a few days ago with Dan Anderson, who is the creator of Bitcoin Crops, and just the discoverability and awareness that it'll bring of some of these individuals who've just been sitting on so many assets, whether it's Bitcoin Crops or Oasis Mining or Memory Chain, Age of Chains, Force of Will, BitGirls, all these things. It could really play into the Bitcoin NFTs narrative. So many people are just unaware of what it is. And if you just have a collection page sitting there with the ability for people who've been holding on to these assets for literally 5+ years, you could just see a lot of demand, especially if people feel like they're early to something, right? Let's say you have somebody that owns like a bunch of BitGirls and they go and vault, 50 of the supply of 300 and they price it really low because, you have to build a market if there's never been price discovery. And people feel like they get in, and that's kind of how the positive flywheel effect happens for it. So that'll be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm hopeful for it. I mean, I understand Dogfather's point that it's like, well, I mean, maybe the point is, well, maybe we could filter out some of the, stuff, and I don't disagree with that. But I do at the same time want us to have the full collection there, right? And so, but how we kind of work with the OpenSea for kind of walking the customer down a path, I think that's important, because you can't just lead with, the stuff that nobody cares. There are a lot of Pepes that people just don't care about, right? So if somebody's landing on Pepes for the first time, how do you kind of give them an experience which gets them to at least the top level that they're going to understand? They're going to understand Nakamoto card. They're going to understand whatever the shitcoin card, or I don't know, Homer Pepe. Is there any way we could get the guy to list the Homer Pepe? You know what I mean? So walk them down the path of the things that are maybe the most interesting, at least, trying to do something like that.
We are also in constant contact with Pepe.wtf and Joe Looney about some features and integrations there. So there are also really cool ideas and products that are being discussed and worked on. Some things that are much more gigabrain than me. When they bring some of these ideas, that between Shannon, Joe, to Pepe.wtf, and some of the other counterparty people that discuss, sounds cool. How they put it together, I have no freaking idea, but they're much smarter than me.
Can anybody talk to, I think it was earlier this week, there was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was FD cards were basically in wallets that hadn't moved in years. And guy woke up the wallet and sold these things for like, I don't even know, a couple $1,000s. Did you guys track this at all? I was just like, wait, what the heck? It just seemed crazy to me. Did you, my favorite comment, one guy was like, what, did he wake up as a zombie? Like what kind of crazy person wakes up and takes, cards that have traded for whatever, 50 ETH, 60, 70 ETH, and just sells them for like 5 ETH or whatever. Did you guys track this at all?
Yeah, I think it was, I don't remember who commented on it. I think it was, and this happened multiple times. The wallet that hadn't, it just woke up after 5 years. It's like waking up out of coma, right? Can you imagine? Like you go, you own like 10 or 15 of these like FD cards, and you just disappear for 5 years, and you're like, oh, maybe I could sell it for 10 grand. Meanwhile, they've sold for like $200,000, and you just.
Is that possible though? I guess it's possible. But it was like 3 of them. I was like, Jesus, do I need to build a bot to like grab these things or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it.
It's happened before, guys. Like there was a Satoshi card where I know someone who they had for like 6 months, just an offer on X-Chain for like some very small amount, and it was still the top offer, and somebody eventually did bite on that. So there are people that just like they're just completely out of touch I saw Dan's turn out down there.
Wow.
If they want to come up and talk about it, maybe they know more than us. But yeah, guys, it's definitely a phenomenon that happens, and it's kind of a very weird dynamic that only really happens in historical NFTs because it requires like many years of someone being completely out of touch.
Yeah, this actually has happened quite often in the Mooncats community as well, where some OG holder has happened actually, like I think like 3 or 4 months ago. An old Mooncat claimer who he dropped, they sold like 5 or 6 sub 100 Mooncats for literally like 0.3 ETH, and the floor of them was like 5 ETH. And everyone's just like, what the fuck happens, right? It's like,
yeah,
I don't
know. I have a Mooncat. Oh, wow. They're worth $600. Awesome. Sold, dude. It's crazy, man. I just want to know. Somebody tell me how to take advantage of this when it happens again.
Dogfather.
People are.
Go ahead, you've heard.
Just the fact that when those things happen too, how quickly people pounce on them always astonishes me, right? Nothing sits for longer than an hour. I look at when it's posted on OpenSea and when it's swooped up, and they're just so, I don't know if it's all bots or just constantly people looking for that or notifications. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Dogfather.
Yeah, there's definitely people fishing for these type of people who live under the rock, come out of that and sell that for cheap. So they have their XCP offers for, the big cards out there. And that's not that easy. You need tons of XCP to do that, to cover the interesting assets. Because it's not like on OpenSea where you take your WETH and you have 10 ETH, and then you spread 100 orders. With XCP, this is really then locked. So if I put 1,000 XCP on FD card, then that's it. This order will sit there for half a year. And I cannot use that XCP on, Satoshi card and whatnot. So I need millions of those to do that on a big level, on everywhere. So these are really the XCP whales.
All right, I'm gonna let a few people on stage, but I'm gonna move on to a little bit more housekeeping details of Emblem Vault. We updated the legacy page. If you guys had not noticed, and I'm about to display it here for those that are watching, we changed the logo of the legacy collection to which was the previous Twitter picture. We titled it Emblem Vault Legacy, and we put some hyperlinks to all of the integrated chains and to some of the featured historical and current ordinal collections. So hopefully that helps out a little bit. We also just passed 11,000 owners, 11,310 owners, becoming one of the largest NFT collections in the space. It will be interesting to see how that number or the volatility of that number once we have curated collections, how many move or if it decreases or increases just because of the sheer amount of attention. So people go to it, people migrating out of legacy to the new one. It'll be interesting to keep that number together and then eventually be able to actually build like a Dune dashboard with all the curated collections so we can finally get some analytics on this. We also, for those that don't know, we actually just got the keys to Discord recently. For those that don't know, Emblem Vault was actually a huge media or decentralized media and community ownership through this. There's like 3 Telegram chats. There was the Discord. The Discord was owned by the community. I think Chill Billy's in here was one of the original people who had been operating it, and it's a community mod that started in 2018. So we got admin access. So it was very similar to the Mooncat situation where I had to help Pondware get the keys from Justin Trimble to kind of pass that on. So Discord is now going to be the home for Emblem Vault. It's just there's so much demand for our attention. Adam and I are taking multiple calls per day. We opened up a ticketing system now to help with all the support tickets, which has actually helped a lot. Still working out some of the kinks through that. But if you need anything Emblem Vault, you're going to find us in the Discord. We're shining our attention there because we just cannot be between 40 different chats anymore. It's just not efficient for us to do. So Discord, we got it up and running. We have the tickets. We also, you can see we have the verified NFT collections for all of them, which is a channel, and you could go in here and you could click on any of the OpenSea collections that are listed. We're going to be adding to this, and this is kind of supplemental as we move to kind of this curated model. So Discord, a big plus. And then we also, on the Legacy collection, you noticed we changed the color to gold. Kind of
You want
yellow.
to give a shout out to the designer of that?
Yeah. So I don't know if he's even in here right now. I told him to come in. He was like, please do not give me a shout out. But my guy Awful Eye, he created it. He's awesome. He's actually like a legally blind NFT artist. So super cool to give him a follow if you ever see him. He's become actually like a pretty cool community member. He's also a community member of my NFT project, and just a cool guy in general, with a pretty cool story. So I appreciate him for doing that. The reason why we made this change is as we move to curated, right? We're trying to kind of separate the branding for it, as Legacy is still there, and kind of moving into this, this new age. But also for those people who aren't familiar with Emblem Vault, to offer some sort of distinction between the colors. So blue and silver is the Legacy collection, right? Now black and gold is going to be for the curated collection. So just some housekeeping there, so people are aware of why that happened. It's been a long time coming. We're also we're going to open up a community art contest for the banners and the icons of each collection. So Pepes and Spells of Genesis and all of the other ones. So if you'd like to have your image or your created banner be there, then please create one and reach out to us. Everyone on Emblem is not artistic in any sense, so we're gonna need some help. Maybe Adam's kid could do it. Adam's son is quite artistic and quite the PFP creator, I should say. Big God, welcome to the stage, man, for the first time. Appreciate you for coming up.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I absolutely love your spaces. Hope, of course, everyone in the audience has given you a follow. My question is really around ordinals. I'm 36 hours really into ordinals. I fucking love it. I've just been aping left and right for all the different collections. Really just buying as much as humanly fucking possible. Really, my question though is there currently because it's been a while since I've really come back to Bitcoin like this, and I think that there's going to be a lot of people that have probably asked this question, but is there a way that like to not have the sort of course, either potentially upside or downside exposure to just holding Bitcoin, but is there some sort of easy swap that I can do other than an exchange, of course, from going from like Bitcoin to a stable? So that if like I want to, of course, continue to have a wallet where I'm going to be minting stuff or buying stuff on these marketplaces, but don't want the sort of exposure that you would get in holding, of course, like either ETH or Bitcoin. Is that a thing yet on Bitcoin? Am I missing that? Anyone else?
Well, unless somebody else wants to chime in, who knows more about that. I'm certainly not an expert at all in this, but I do remember seeing that. Is it Stacks that was going to have remind me, Jake? Was it Stacks who's going to have the USD?
The Alex bridge or something like that?
Yeah. Some sort of swap. This is where you get into like these swaps where you could swap Bitcoin for USDC using Stacks. Lord, bro, I get like my head starts burning and I'm like, bro, we need to this needs to be so much easier for like a future where this is like not needed, that I need to like swap back and forth and stuff. But I think Stacks is the place where you can do that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they're trying to bridge over Tether and ETH through this Alex bridge so that you can facilitate and that kind of stuff. Again, got to keep in mind, man, like 80% of all the hacks that happen are through bridges. So be very, very careful about that. I mean, if you just want to simply swap Bitcoin for a stable coin in a trustless way, you can use some of the decentralized or some of the DAO model exchanges, I guess you call it, like Shapeshift and Change Now. Are pretty simple ones that are pretty cool. Shapeshift was created by Eric Voorhees, who's kind of the OG in the space.
Yep.
So I use those from time to time. but natively it just does not exist. I mean, you had Sovereign at one point. That was like my huge just trade loss last year, which is like a DeFi. It's a Bitcoin DeFi protocol that's built on Rootstock, which is like a side chain of Bitcoin. And I tried to dabble in that for a while. That system is just even more antiquated than everything else is. Oh man, it's tough. I'm sure
maybe just hold your Bitcoin, man. That might be the best strategy.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
No problem. Moving on to some of our other favorite historical NFT stuff. I don't know if you guys had seen this, but Ponderware is back. Did you guys, Adam? Did you happen to see this?
What are they doing? They were teased and it was like the announcement pre the announcement, right?
They said that they're starting a new project. So there's a long thread, so I'll just read the first and the last tweet. It says, "We know you're curious about what we've been cooking behind the scenes, and we're eager to give you a glimpse into our plans. First, we want to expand our vision for the future and what drives us to create," and goes on, blah, blah, blah. And says, "As all this continues with our newest project, which will be announced in a short order, this marks a new chapter for us, and we can't wait to see where it leads. We are on a mission to find our tribe, and we hope that you're part of it. Pass the flask." It's interesting because they've been very kind of like pretentious about their tweeting and stuff. They've kind of always been like a little snobbish, but I mean, they are OGs. Right, they moved on past Mooncats. They sold that to right, they have these things like we promise to never use the word fidgetal. They kind of been shitting on ordinals and calling them boardinals, right? Kind of taking the like the moral high ground. I'm interested. I mean, they've launched a few projects so far. I know that they've kind of migrated to this like Web3 studio. Oh, they moved their thing to pixelated. They're going back to pixels. I mean, I could give you some alpha. I'm pretty sure. I've been talking with a few people of what their project could be and who it might be.
Let's hear it, bro.
The leading theory I have right now, dun dun dun, is that they're the Nakamigos. This new project that just released. So, and the leading theory behind this is that
time to sell those Nakamitos, guys.
Yeah. So the leading theory, and this is all speculation, so please take it with a grain of salt. Satoshi, when he came back, he said that he was working with a 2017 dev team to build a project, and he had put this in like their Discord or something like that. And then the Nakamigos launched yesterday. Ponderware said they're going back to a Pixel project. They changed their profile to Pixel project. Nakamigos launched. They posted that the same day saying they're launching. There's this whole like leading narrative of like who the Nakamigos are. And Satoshi had said that he's working with an OG project. And Satoshi's, if you owned the end of Satoshi, which was like that, his like kind of rug mint as he walked away. If you held them, you got to mint the Nakamigos for free or low free or whatever it was. So that's kind of the leading speculation is that, you know, maybe they are, I forget what there's like a whole dev team name behind it. That's not the Nakamigos. It's called like Hold Labs or something Labs, or I forget the name. So maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I'm interested to see what they're doing.
Nakamigos, I'm just looking at Nakamigos right now. It is 20,000, so that would fit with Ponderware and having too many. You know, that would fit. I don't know, man. It's like whatever Ponderware. I mean, look, those guys are awesome. I love those guys, right? But let's be honest. Basically, everything they've done has been too early or wrong, right? And you know, so including Mooncats, right? Yeah. So, you know, I don't know. All their stuff they built, like basically none of it worked out, right? I can't think of one thing they built whereas like that was a home run. That was awesome. And you know.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, they're cool. It's really cool experimentation. It's just they've been really too early to a lot of this stuff. So if we go through it, right? Mooncats, the story. I think most people are very familiar with the story of Mooncats. And then with Mooncats, they did the on-chain accessory boutique. And now you're just starting to see, right? They did that 2 years ago. And now you're just starting to see some on-chain accessories pop up with Moonbirds. It did the X copy backgrounds and 10 KTF. Yeah, doodles, right? So you're starting to see the accessory stuff. So again, a little bit too early. They did the contract work for Starcade, which is that kind of like gaming project, which I actually think I still own some Starcades in their training center or something like that. Cool project. I mean, just still, again, none of the projects they build is like non-hype projects, which is kind of feeds into kind of like their personality in general. So they just like to build cool stuff. Then they did that pixelated like Wonder project. What was that called, Adam? Do you remember what I'm talking about, or anyone? The one that they like airdropped everyone, and everyone got pissed. They're like, "What the fuck is what is this?" They're like,
the game, dude, that game. Yeah, where people are like, "What is this? It's historic and it's not historic. What is that?" Yeah.
Ethord, what was that?
Yeah, that was their attempt. If anyone's familiar with South Park, I'm a big South Park fan. Matt Stone and Trey Parker learned a long time ago that you can make fun of everyone except for your audience. So Who's Cartman's dad episode, and then them on April Fool's, supposed to reveal it, and then they just did a Terrence and Phillip episode the whole time, and they went on hiatus, and everyone hated them for it. This is similar, right? So it was their April Fool's thing, and they wanted to do a nod back to the 90s. What was that name of the, that style of all those web pages back then?
GeoCities, right?
Thank you. Yeah. So it was their GeoCities kind of ode to, but of course they pitched it saying that it was this ancient 90s NFT project. And obviously it was new, and then it had the game and people didn't quite understand it. I mean, you guys hit it on the nail. Everything they do is either too early, or either way, they have fun, and I still talk with Jerfles all the time. But they have fun building, and they're having fun building right now. He's talked to me a little bit about it, but not a ton of what they're doing. He just knows that, this is the most exciting thing for them, is when they're in this phase and having fun and experimenting and doing things they want to do it the way they want to. But, self-admittedly, they know they're not the best at marketing, and they're not the best at post-execution and building hype or any of that stuff. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for the new one that they got coming up. I've seen a little bit of it. It looks cool. But the only thing I can say, right, and I don't even know this for a fact, I just, even the tweet that they put out, it kind of hints at it. Look, they are not going to have a click to mint button. That's not their way. This is something I've always loved about Mooncats, is the execution of how you get it. And, they don't want people to jump through too many hoops, because they don't want to make it inaccessible. But at the same time, they want it to be a unique kind of experience to get it. So I would expect something similar.
So Ethor, you can confirm the Nakamigos thing is not true then?
I cannot confirm or deny, but I do not believe it's them.
To me, there's no way that Ponderware goes and drops the 20K PFP. Like that sounds like the last thing these guys would want to do with their lives, based on like my just vibes and talking to them a little. But I don't know. Like we will see. It'll definitely be interesting. I don't think they're gonna do a project that's like fitting the needs to be hyped, like brand building parties at NFT NYC. I don't think it's going to be necessarily like that. And my guess is these guys don't want to build something where they have like a community that's like cheering for them to like hype the project for the price to go up. I could not imagine that that's what they go do now, but we will see.
Yeah, it is quite interesting. So yeah, maybe they also are just like a Web3 studio too. So who knows, man? I wish them the best. I hope they do it. They were cool. I was really close with them for a while. Then they unfollowed me for some reason. So I was kind of.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they got mad I called them out or something. I don't know. I was their biggest supporter for the longest time. So it is what it is. And their last project
I just put the in the chat on YouTube. I just put in there the game. It was called Quest 3. That was like, man, the community was so pissed about that.
Oh man, I just
execution as far as like, okay. Did you lose me there for a second? Yeah, execution, they did execute well, man, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the last one that they did was the condo minis thing, where it was like you take 5 NFTs and you can kind of combine them and disassemble them to build these like city things. That was fun for about all of 10 seconds, and then it kind of just fell apart after that. Cool experiment, right? Like nobody had really done anything like that again. So again, on the forefront, but it's very big their model. So I appreciate them. Attendees beat.btc. I've had your hand up waiting patiently. Thank you.
GM Ribbit, what's up, man? From 10K Hype Group project over here. Just want to say frogs go hard, and thank Leonidas. Thank you for purchasing a frog. Just got a little question about taxes.
Yo, when I tweeted that out, I did not realize, like, I tweeted that out to demo the Magic Eden interface. And then all of a sudden, it's getting like hundreds of replies by these frogs, like, "Oh my God, Leonidas!" That was
we got the hypest community in the space next to
that. Was an amazing experience.
Let's fucking go.
That I did not expect.
I'm not to lie, like that prompted me to buy about like 40 of them. So I love you, man.
Leo's just buying the cheapest one the cheapest ordinal he can find, and it turns out to be the ribbit frogs or whatever these guys are, and they're going crazy.
I found out that they have a pretty strong community, so that's they've got that going for them.
Oh my Jesus, dude! How freaking funny is that, dude?
So do we have like a tax professional here? Just out of curiosity, trading ords. Essentially, we're just purchasing a single Satoshi, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
So do I really have to report them?
Pretty good argument. Pretty good argument.
They're so small. They're so small. I shouldn't have to report them.
I mean, it's just that, right?
Yeah, I like that argument. I'm gonna roll with that one. I'm not purchasing art. I'm purchasing Bitcoin.
I mean, a sat's a sat, right? I'm just overpaying for a single sat, right?
Can you imagine explaining that to your tax attorney? You're like, yeah, I bought $1 for $100,000.
Yeah, I already did, and he was like, "We're just not gonna report that."
I like
never
it.
Sell, never lose, never pay taxes. It's simple.
I think we're gonna have to start an ordinals tax service here.
So speaking of ordinals, I don't know if everyone saw, there is more ordinals now, or what do they call it? Moraninals? Monero has their own ordinals. And I remember tweeting about this literally as Bitcoin or as Bitcoin ordinals were popping off. And I was like, if you ascribe on an ordinal or if you didn't ascribe on Monero, does anyone know? It's
right. If an ordinal falls in the Monero forest, does it make a sound? Right. It's like, no, man, I saw that and I was just like, the thing is, nobody uses it. And that at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's just the guys who are into Monero. And I know there's a lot of hardcore Bitcoiners who love Monero and stuff. And like as a privacy coin, awesome, right? But the reality is the barrier for entry is just too high. Who's gonna even, I don't even know. What is it? Does Monero have its own wallet? What do I even have to do? Just users aren't going to do it. They're just not going to do it, man. Well, I could be totally wrong, but that's my gut on the Monordinals or Mordinals.
Mordinals. Well, that's what the Monero people want you to think, right? No one's using it. It's kind of the whole. That's kind of the whole idea behind it. Yeah, there is nobody on this ghost chain.
Probably right.
Totally. Speaking of Monero, though, I don't know if you saw a Fluffy Pony, who was the person who was kind of running Monero for a long time, kind of just gave away the whole system. I guess they was like gave away some of the surveillance perspective of it to. I forget what jurisdiction it was or what regulatory body it was that he was working with them for a few years. And I'm probably messing that up a little bit. But it just goes to show you, even the privacy-centric people, when they're put under pressure from regulatory bodies, man, they can cave and they could give away all of that information to how the whole system works.
Yeah, speaking of Mordinals, I stumbled down a rabbit hole of BSV is now claiming ordinals. I tagged Post Capone in it just to kind of ruffle his jimmies a little bit. But how do you guys feel about Bitcoin Silver ordinals?
Well, Bitcoin SV was the reason why they forked off of Bitcoin Cash was to go even higher blocks, right? Don't they do like at stupid amounts of size? So they've been doing, what is that social media? Twitch. They've had Twitch for like 2 years or something. Twitch is like their Twitter, decentralized Twitter. And I've never used it before. There are some devout people who are just all about Twitch and using it because you can store as much information in there pretty much as you need. But now inscribing on single Bitcoin SV sats, to me, it seems kind of pointless if you can pretty much just max limit and mint things within a block. I don't know. Does anyone else have an opinion on this?
Jake, there's people that are inscribing like full feature films in 4K. Just kidding. Bad joke. Sorry. It's just way cheaper. It's way cheaper. Like less decentralized, less secure, but way cheaper. And there's going to be use cases where that probably makes sense, right? I guess so.
I'm gonna inscribe all of my video games into a single sat and go sell it, right? I don't know. We have a Bitcoin SV deposit address on Emblem Vault. So hey, whatever brings more attention to us, I guess.
Do you really? I didn't even know that, man. That's
Leo dunk on them.
What'd you say?
I just wanted to hear Leonidas dunk on Bitcoin SV if possible.
I try not to dunk on too much stuff. I've gotten in trouble historically dunking on things, so I try to keep the high ground and just talk about the shit that I fuck with, I guess. But look, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some interesting stuff that's happened in Bitcoin's history, and there's people that can probably say stronger things than I will about that. But yeah, look, I'm a fan of people trying experiments and stuff. Just like there's obviously a spectrum of like literally scamming and lying to people versus trying experiments. So just kind of, do your own research, guys.
DYOR, whatever is going to bring Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV back, right? I think, dude, the whole ordinal thing, you could probably put it into almost any proof of work chain. It seems like you have Doginals that's existing. They actually created their own wallet now. It's called Wolf Wallet. People are interested in that. So Wolf Wallet exists, and I have got information that you can actually store it in an Emblem Vault too, in a unique way. I guess if you take the private keys to a Wolf Wallet address, you then go store it in an Emblem Vault, kind of very similar to what some people started doing recently, where they're taking the ownership of vintage XCP assets. So one, for example, is Pepe. Somebody put the private keys or the ownership of that asset in an Emblem Vault and is selling it. So you can essentially, that's the same thing the Doginal Communities is doing, is taking the private keys of the Wolf Wallet and then storing it in and selling it that way, until we add the Doginal specific wallet address in there, which they just need better infrastructure because we need explorers and all kinds of other unique stuff to that. Dogfather, who is our Doge expert, who is also the father of Jolly Roger, or the team that's been around for a while. What's good?
I mean, my take on all these other chains trying to mimic and I mean, it's all cool, right? I mean, they also want to have a part of the whole thing, But even, on Litecoin, which is relatively large compared to the others, there's still really little going on in terms of infrastructure building. So maybe they just take a bit more time because they have smaller teams. But I mean, I would not go into even smaller kind of protocols and hope for the best if, even the second largest project like Litecoin is not really getting far. And on Dogecoin, that's even more complicated because you can only inscribe very small files. And that's already possible with the Doge Party. So that's not too much innovation. So I think for most people, staying on Bitcoin is the safer bet.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. Litecoin, Adam and I were pretty active in Litecoin ordinals in the beginning because we were trying to add support for them. And it's legit like 4 or 5 people kind of like really work. I give him props. Like the guy, Anthony, who created that fork, there was a 21 Litecoin bounty. So he got paid $2,100 essentially to do it. And now he's kind of stuck with it. now he's actively building on it. They opened up.
Look, man, what we've learned is all these things are like just a handful of guys. Like even Bitcoin, right? Counterparty. We all know J-Dog, right? There's not many people building this stuff. I mean, that's why actually ordinals has been really significant, because you've got, I don't know, 40 new guys coming in and building stuff. right? And when you add 40 to what was 2, like that's substantial, right? And this is how stuff gets built and moved forward. But it is so small. You do recognize these teams and people who are like, building stuff. You recognize that, wow, it's a handful of guys, which is pretty amazing, actually, when you think about it.
I agree. BitGod's been waiting patiently. You thinking about some Doginals?
Well, no, I was just sort of, I think, wanted to expand on really, I think, what Dogfather was talking about with, I think some of these other chains trying to expand into NFTs or copy, of course, what Ordinals is doing, or just any other sort of chain has done for the past bit. I think what's ultimately happened, right, is like when you look at the data, 80% of sort of the first transactions on ETH are really with NFTs. And so I think that anyone that is, building on, whether you're building on Litecoin, whether you're the Litecoin core devs, the BSV core devs, you're going like, what are we actually going to sort of create or try and attract new users? And right now that thing or that is really NFTs. And so I think really what happened post Luna crash, as well as a lot of these centralized exchange crashes, was there's really right now probably a mistrust of much of DeFi, which was really the mainstay, or really the main point of entry for, I think, a lot of people back in 2019, 2020, maybe 2021. I think going into sort of the beginning of 2021 to now, it's really focused around NFTs, and I think people are in general pulling their money out of many different DeFi protocols across ecosystems to check out NFTs. And I think that if you're a brand new ecosystem like Bitcoin, if you're a brand new ecosystem on some sort of new alt L1 or emerging L1, you have to be catering, I think, to really this audience, because everyone, I think, right now is in total mistrust of both centralized and decentralized exchanges that are offering any sort of yield that is just another form of a Ponzi.
I gotta love the Ponzi's, man. Moving on. Actually, I think this topic that I'm about to bring up right now could have some profound impacts, although I believe there's going to be a follow-up to this. The New York Times put out an article talking about the judge dismissing a lawsuit over the ownership of the $1.7 million NFT. The legal battle over quantum is part of a larger effort to define the rules of ownership for digital artworks. So for those that don't know, the story behind this is that in 2021, Sotheby's and Kevin McCoy sold an NFT that they claimed was the first ever NFT, Quantum, which was originally registered to the Namecoin blockchain in 2014, which is a GIF. They sold it to Silly Tuna for $1.47 million. Turns out, though, after the auction, that they realized that this was actually a remint where Kevin McCoy took the same image and minted it on Ethereum in 2021, and then claimed it was the first NFT because he was claiming artist provenance over kind of the technical provenance. And so there's an individual, his name's Early NFT on Twitter. He went and claimed the registration for it when he saw this auction, and claimed it and minted into the Namecoin registry that he owned it. And so afterwards, he filed a lawsuit against them, claiming, I forget what the actual claim was, but basically saying that he owns the actual NFT itself. And so but he did it under free holdings because he lives in Canada and he's protecting his anonymity. And the judge after this dismissed the case, siding with Sotheby's and Kevin McCoy, saying that free holdings is demonstrating nothing more than an attempt to exploit open questions of ownership in the still developing NFT field to lay claim of the profits of a legitimate artist. Quite interesting. It says the significance of this case is that it prevented a party from using somewhat obscure blockchain usage rules to appropriate the work product of an artist, is what one of the lawyers has said. During a phone interview, Kevin McCoy said that this court victory showed that the blockchain technology protects artist rights. So he's taking the artist rights over the provenance of Namecoin. And Namecoin in general is quite a convoluted ownership history. There's kind of two leading ideological perspectives for this, because Namecoin, as the first altcoin in 2011, had the first ever NFT registered to the blockchain, Bitcoin.bit, in 2011, April 21st, 2011. It's a registry, it's a domain registry. So the assets expire every about 8 months. I think it's like every 36,000 blocks or something like that. And so it's a UTXO model. So the UTXO expires afterwards. And so then afterwards, individuals can then go claim it afterwards. And so some people who collect on there are saying that you follow the name history itself. So if Bitcoin.bit was registered in April 21st, 2011, then therefore it's existed for that long, no matter what the impact is on the UTXO. The other individuals who are against it say that once the UTXO expires and you re-register it 3 years later, then that's when the provenance begins of that asset itself. Adam, what do you think, man? Do you think this is a big hit to the ownership overall of how NFTs will be defined in the court system, or is this just big nothing burger?
Oh, it's not a nothing burger, but it's going to be more than this. There's going to have to be multiple more lawsuits and figures, and we're going to talk about it more on, I believe, Monday's show with Brian, who's our IP lawyer expert. He's going to come on, and we're going to dive into this a bit more, because it is detailed and nuanced. And like he says, like, man, this is like, the laws need to be written. And obviously we're just talking about US law, right, for this, which pretty much is going to lead the world as far as the IP and stuff goes. But we're still in early days, and I know it's going to be contested. I think we've already found that out. It's going to be appealed. Whether or not he'll be successful long term, I would say I would doubt it, but you never know. And it's complicated, full stop. Like, it's complicated. And certainly when we get into court rulings and stuff, it's going to be even more complicated. And then layer in whether or not we as NFT collectors will even necessarily honor it, so to say, right? We may say, okay, well, fine, that's what the artist believes, but we believe the real ownership is with the Namecoin asset, or, so there are all these kind of layers to it and nuanced conversations that I'm sure it's going to be a decade or longer before we've kind of hashed out where we all stand in this.
Yeah, it's going to leave. It's definitely going to have an impact. I did message Early NFT. He said that he's definitely going to be filing appeal. He said that he didn't feel that he did a good job defending or presenting his case. Chain Left actually got cited in the court documents.
Yeah, that was awesome, man. I think that was the best part of the whole thing, man.
Man, Twitter is literally just being cited left and right in all these court cases again. So whether you're SBF and fraud and going on Twitter Spaces, basically just giving the New York attorneys just evidence against you, or if you're just a small person in the historical NFT space being quoted presenting on the provenance of Namecoin. It's interesting. Joe Looney actually had a very funny quote tweet after the New York Times. He quote tweeted and said, the first NFT was minted in 2021. Oh boy, right? I think you could appeal essentially on those grounds of the court saying that the first NFT is in 2021.
Look, this is it. I mean, at the end of the day, if they said that, right, and the court decided that, right, do we have to go along with it, right? Do we have to agree, right? And so there are multiple layers to this. It's incredible, man.
Awful Eye's got his hand up. He's also the one who created the logo and banner for Emblem Vault. So appreciate you for doing that, bro. How's your morning going? What's your thoughts on this?
I'm doing good, man. Sorry I'm late. I took a nap. But I don't know, man. It seems kind of weird if it was minted on Namecoin back in 2011. I feel like that should be the start of it, like that's when it started. So I feel, me personally, I mean, I just feel like that's where it should, if that's where it started, that's where it should start, like it doesn't matter if somebody come back and re-registered it or whatever, and it started back in 2011. So in my opinion, that's where the I guess provenance and stuff like that. I guess that's where shit, I can't think of the word. I think that's where it should start, and I think that's where it should end. I don't think he should have been able to do that. So I don't think it should stand up in court, honestly, because 2011. I mean, that's a long time ago now, and I mean 3 years. I mean, there's people that were around then that aren't around now. So would that mean that if anybody bought a piece off a Namecoin that that they could like get sued for that? Or
yeah, it's a tough question. So the asset specifically in this case, there's so many layers to it, right? Because it's actually a 2014 asset, and it was a gift that was registered. So they're claiming that the non-fungibility, they're claiming non-fungibility starts with the artwork and not with anything else, which I think most people tend to disagree that non-fungibility is more than just that represented in art. And then it's reminted, and so then they're siding with the artist, and they're saying that the provenance sides with whatever the artist says, right? In an industry that abides by code is law, it's tough to get around that.
Dude, how awesome is it that the whole idea of basically creating provenance through blockchain technology has made provenance even more complicated and less clear? How awesome is that, man? Humans are complicated beasts. It's so great.
If that's the case, then I created the first NFT back in '98 when I was because if it's based off the artwork, I was making artwork back then. So I mean, it obviously doesn't mean that it has to be minted. You know,
right? You just minted it today, but you made it back in 1998, right? So 1998 is the actual mint date.
Swagtoshi, first, great name. Second, what's good?
Grazie. What's up, boys? I'm actually going to go back to what we were talking about before, just because I think it's important and could potentially help a lot of you on this call here, on the tax piece. So I'm an accountant by trade, DGen by night. But when it comes to figuring out your taxes for NFT stuff, at the end of the day, it comes down to the cost basis when you purchase that item. So let's say, for example, you buy an ordinal today for 1 BTC. That cost basis on your personal books is going to be 27 and change. As Leonidas said, you're not paying taxes unless you sell it. But let's say you sell it in a year or two. You sell it though for 1 BTC, but 1 BTC is worth, let's say, $1 million. That you have to then pay the gain, the tax on the gain of the difference between the price of Bitcoin when you sell and the price of Bitcoin when you bought.
First in, first out.
Can I? But we're not actually buying art; we're buying a Satoshi, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely gray areas. I would say that's probably the most conservative approach, is to use that cost basis.
Okay, so
you may have an aggressive accountant that wants to put his name on something else, but for me, if I was signing tax returns for people, I would. I don't know how comfortable I'd be with that, but.
Well played.
But who knows? Still gray area.
Hey, that's what we operate in, is the gray area itself. I do want to note one final topic here that I think it caught a lot of attention and then kind of went under wraps, and they had some issues, is the future of tokenized media. Matt Medved, who most of us on stage, me, Leo, Adam, we host shows for them on Mondays. They minted the Now Pass, and then had some technical difficulties. I don't know, Adam, did you see that happened? They had an issue with the code where the transfer function on the marketplace wasn't displaying. It shows even the greatest, even the biggest brands in the business can have issues with just simple contract functions.
Yeah, it's rough, man. I felt bad for those guys. I didn't track it, so I don't know exactly what happened. And I did mint a couple or whatever we could. I think as hosts we could mint 2, so I minted 2. But and then I went to OpenSea and I'm like, it's like do not it's like NFT now, do not transfer. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Hey man, tech's hard, and especially, I mean, a lot of people are like, whoa, why didn't you just use Manifold? Why didn't you, But at the end of the day, look, you may be trying to do something a little bit more interesting or have certain functionality, and yeah, it's rough. I felt bad for those guys.
Yeah, Matt seems like he's been in pretty good spirits for it. I can only imagine behind the scenes though, the absolute chaos that ensues from it. They're doing an airdrop, I believe. Yeah, I minted too as well. They're doing an airdrop where the other ones become, I guess, collectibles, right? We'll have the V1, V2s. Maybe 3 years from now, we can say these are the original tokenized media tokens. And go in and have some fun. I'm excited to see where it goes. I've actually been very bullish on tokenized media, although it's the idea of it's incomplete. It's basically the idea of like, how do you incentivize communities and hosts to participate together to create, I guess, to curate value is interesting. I kind of hit it nail on the head, which I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back for this. In August of last year, I said, if anyone's going to figure out tokenized media, it's going to be NFT now. And then they launched it. So giving myself some credence, right? Time traveler. The only people really that have kind of really dabbled into this so far is Rug Radio, I guess, is kind of on the biggest frontier of it. So I'm interested to see what else it might be. There was not really much technical information out there, but I mean, they have connections to literally everybody in the space. So I don't doubt that they have some plans there. But when you're a big brand like that, you have to move a little bit slower and a little bit more tactically from it. I'd like to hear Leo's opinion as somebody who's pretty much a professional Twitter Spaces host now, and has become familiar with media and how the space kind of operates. What are your thoughts on NFT now and tokenized media?
I'm definitely not a professional Twitter space. I have been long avoiding putting the hashtag Spaces host in my continue to dodge that bullet. But look, I think this is a bit of a nothing burger. Like, basically, there's one line of code in their contract that should have basically admitted an event. It doesn't actually have anything to do with like the actual transfer. It's just literally an event that OpenSea and these other marketplaces use to pick up on when a transfer happens. I did notice that, like, when I minted mine, it didn't show up on OpenSea. So I didn't really look into it more than that, but I did think it was weird that it only showed up on Etherscan. But yeah, I mean, look, again, this is like, to me, like, this is a team they're not an engineering team. Their goal is to basically build this like community and incentivize that community. And they're really experts at basically journalism. Like, Matt has a degree there, and like, they're going to create a media brand in Web3. And ultimately, like, I'm sure they just outsourced this smart contract, and the person who they outsourced it to kind of messed up. And, you live and you learn, but they're going to do an airdrop and everybody will forget about this. I really don't think it's like that big of a deal, to be honest. It's didn't really affect the ownership as far as I can tell. So I think it's really just about, basically they're going to do this airdrop for the people who did this phase 1 mint, and then it'll kind of just not matter.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for it just because I like being out. I like going out on the frontier, seeing stuff, right? Kind of taking the playbook from Hondaware. Let's go and explore it, but let's add some branding to it as well. And
let's market it a little bit, right? Just a little bit. I'm interested to see if any of these guys kind of go after a little bit more of the, something along the lines of what Adam did, back in the day with Tokenly and that sort of stuff, and just try I've tried to connect them with Adam so that they can maybe, talk to him and learn from his experience, because the reality was he was successful, with it. And, obviously it's new today. We're in a new kind of social media environment, but some of the concepts are the same. So I'm excited to see, if one of these guys can pull it off.
Yeah, it's a big hurdle to overcome. I've kind of learned even over the last few weeks with kind of my NFT thing that, dude, building community is fun. Once you add a token to it, it becomes a completely different ball game for it.
When moon, Jake, when moon,
dude. People just want to know. Yeah, it's quite fun here. But
They say, Sir Admin, when does token go up?
Yeah, right, man. Can the devs do something? My price is not good, man. It's not good.
When? Yeah. I think that's probably a good time to probably close it out here with some final words on a Good Friday. I think as I'm looking at this, because I have the OpenSea page pulled up, I think Bitcoin apes are actually minted out or pretty close because these sales are picking up massively now. So
Yeah,
I think
I wouldn't if there's any looks like there's any. I'd be very hesitant to recommend trying to mint some. People have probably already got those mints in. So even if you see them as available on the website, they're probably already minted. I would be you're probably going to waste your money trying to mint any off the website right now.
And it's a security update. So please, everybody, please make sure you're looking at the all Bitcoin apes tag if you're going to purchase on OpenSea. Also make sure that the assets match up.
Why don't you show them that one thing? Maybe show them that page just so everybody can see that kind of one scam we saw pop up with the Bored Ape, or sorry, the Bitcoin apes.
The Bitcoin apes,
people were putting a floor ape in an Emblem vault and then putting the image for like whatever. The one we saw was like the golden ape number 232. It had a legit Bitcoin ape in the vault, but it was a floor ape. And so, being able to just do that check, it takes 2 seconds to check, just to make sure you're looking at the legit one. So yeah, this one, the title says, Bitcoin ape number 232, but then when you look in the attributes, it actually says, oh, well, it's Bitcoin ape, 9626, right? So you gotta check the attributes in the vaults right now, just to make sure you're not buying a scam.
Yep. And we actually are, by the end of this day, we'll have an update push to where the inscription number in the title has to match the inscription of the asset inside the vault. We had to do that for Bitcoin Ape or Bitcoin Punks. I'm mixing them all up together. We had to do that for Bitcoin Punks. And so it'll probably be just like a whole legacy vault kind of thing. It's crazy how every time we try to move past the legacy, it just keeps pulling us back. And it's like that crazy ex-girlfriend, dude. It just can't stay away from it. Can't stay away from it. Kind of funny. But yeah, we will have that security function pushed, so you can purchase it through the collection tag, or you could go to Ordinals Market, get a little bit of experience, pay a little bit more, and kind of follow the volumes and stuff there. It seems like. But at first and foremost, just please make sure that you're practicing some security for it. You don't know, just thinking of the whole scope of it, right? It was a whole mint out. You don't know how many people are holding what. It's all in Bitcoin wallet. So you can trace it. It takes a lot more time to kind of trace where everything is going. So please, this weekend, if you're going to trade or if you're going to trade anything on the Legacy Collection, please make sure that you're practicing proper safety. And also make sure that you touch some grass this weekend, man. It's March Madness. I was out last night watching some March Madness. That UCLA game was quite wild at the end, if anybody had watched that. Leo, I didn't catch. How was your bachelor party before we get out of here last weekend? Did you have a lot of fun last weekend?
Oh, yeah, it was good. I mean, you do what you do on bachelor parties, so it was a good time. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Gotta love a good bachelor party. It's spring. We're right around the corner. Adam, any final words before we close this out?
Oh, man. Go touch some grass. I'm going to go pet the pig and get out of here, man. Maybe take an hour for myself.
Tendies has got some final words.
Ribbit Bitcoin frogs to the moon. Ordinals aren't on track, so you don't got to report them on your taxes.
When I leave, I got to go film my how to sell a ordinal on that.
Oh, buddy, dude. BitGod, can you give us one final word before we close this out?
Yeah, man. Give Jake a follow. Give Emblem Vault a follow. Leonidas, Dogfathers, and the rest, man. Great space. Great fucking space.
Appreciate it, guys. Yeah, we do this every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. Every Friday, recapping everything that is kind of the anti-hype culture. We cover everything, collectibles, historical NFTs, Emblem Vault, and also shoot the shit and find out that Adam has a pig. Like the funnest thing that's actually out there. All right, guys, I'm going to close this down here in a second. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bitcoin frogs to the moon.
Have a good night, guys.